It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show for May 15th. It's a Thursday. It's 2025. This is the C Block, which means we start around 7:40. And John, I failed to give you an explanation on something that I've done. And I will explain right after I say this. If you want to listen to our show in podcast format, you can find it at bjshow.co. And now, if you want to listen to our podcast on video format vis-a-vis YouTube, go to bjshow.us. John, you want my explanation?
Sure, why not?
Back in the day, I bought domain names and owned quite a few domain names for a long time. The most expensive domain names were the .coms. That is absolutely, positively, totally changed. The domain names I used to buy, like .today and .pro, were like $1.99. Now those are $300. I'm being exaggerating here. We did have bjshow.video, and when it came up for renewal, it was $69. So
a year.
Yeah, a year. See, once again, the .coms used to be the expensive ones at like $19. If you buy them on GoDaddy, they're like $19.99 a month or a year or something like that.
So that's like $6 a month to keep the domain.
I still can do it. It's not gone. I mean, I can still
No, but I'm just making sure that we got that right.
Well, the point being that what I'm doing is I'm essentially looking at cheaper domains because, see, once again, the dot videos used to be cheap ones. All those ones. Like, for example, there's some of them right now. They're $300 a year. Like if you want to do bjshow.sucks, that's $99 a year. And the thing about it is they don't lock you in on the price. Next year can be $299. So
I get what you're saying. Okay.
So I went with bjshow.us because those are relatively cheap. I think I paid $6 for it. I can still get.
It's a great time to thank people. Yesterday, Brad, we don't get caught up in numbers, but we had more views yesterday than we've had all week. So thanks to a number of people over the week have been promoting the show and sharing the show, and we appreciate that. We spend virtually, I think, Brad, you've spent $100 over 18 months in advertising for the show. So we obviously don't allocate any resources into promoting or advertising the show. So we thank everyone who comes from my website or Twitter or Instagram or other places. Thank you for sharing the show.
John's going to make me feel bad about that. Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying we do it with no support and no resources.
A Block, you brought up the Marc Cox thing, and just to recap, he was on the air this morning talking about the fact that he has, and once again, Marc Cox, my hat's off to you. You put your journalism hat back on. I think it's great. He's bothering, or I shouldn't say bothering. He's persisting on getting an answer from the Kirkwood prosecutor. And I'm not sure if Kirkwood has a full-time prosecutor if they farm it out to a law firm. I'm not exactly sure what it is. But he can't get the Kirkwood prosecutor to respond to his requests for information. And essentially, Mark's better at this than I am because he did a lot of it when he was a news guy at Channel 4. Sunshine law in the state of Missouri. Well, you had a deal if you have something that goes on. And John, are you going to bring up my little run-in with out in St. Charles County Election Authority? Are you going to bring that up?
No, but if you want me to share the unbiased version of that sometime, I can.
Go ahead. Give the unbiased version.
So Brad, you wanted a database of, you wanted a list of candidates prior to it was the August primary, correct?
I don't even know what it was anymore because
prior to an election. I'll finish the story because I can do it succinctly without meandering. You wanted a list of candidates because you wanted to send them unsolicited pitches on radio and why they should buy radio ads. That list is public information. You went to the St. Charles County Board of Election Commissioners, whatever they call themselves, and you wanted a list. They said they didn't have it. You essentially got the runaround. And then you were told that if you wanted it, you had to file a sunshine request. And you were incredulous. And then Mr. Barr, who runs the election office, said, what I'm assuming is in a jocular way, which you, of course, because you being you, took the wrong way, said, well, you have to file a sunshine request. And he said, well, you just did. By that request, by you asking for it, it was considered a sunshine request. Unless I recall incorrectly, Brad, you did end up getting the list. So it just took you longer than expected to get the list, right?
But there's one key aspect of the story, as you just related. They both told me. I walked in there one time with a
And
guy.
who is they?
Who is the state rep? You know who that is. I can't remember his name anymore. You know who I'm talking about.
He's a former state representative named Marc Parkinson.
Okay, I walked into the office and I said, Mark, can I get a list? And he says, it's on the website. I go, no, it's not. And he goes, yes, it is. And I say, Mark, I just looked. It's not there. So he went in his computer and he says, oh, you're right. Somebody took it down. So, and then he said, I'll email it to you in a day or so. I never got it. So a week later, I showed up back and the same thing. This time was Kurt Barr in the front office. Kurt, can I get this list? And we went through the same thing. Brad, it's on the website. I go, no, it's not. I said it was in here last week, and I said the thing to Marc Parkinson, and he says it's on the website. It's not on the website. So Kurt says, well, I know it's on the website. So we went on the website, and it wasn't. And he said to me, we don't handle the website. That's done by somebody in St. Charles City, somebody downtown, because they're out in the county now. And that's when he said, well, you have to file the Freedom of Information Act. I'm going, okay, whatever, jump through hoops. See, here's the interesting part of that is, if I went into McDonald's and I said to them, hey, how can I find out how many calories are in the Big Mac? The McDonald's, that's there on the wall. They go over there and say, sir, here's our thing right here. It's on the wall. As a matter of fact, you go on our website, and to the point where if you want, I'll have our public relations person personally get in touch with you. Okay? They wouldn't say, you have to send a letter to corporate headquarters in Chicago.
You're exactly right. And you got the list, and it was available. I interrupted you. You were telling a relevant story about Marc Cox and the Kirkwood. So you're saying that he's going to do some sunshine requests.
Well, no, he's already
figure out exactly what's going on with the case, right?
He's already done it, and he's like a dog with a bone on this. He had the Christian Kirk. He had him on yesterday. That was you referred to earlier? You had him on yesterday, right?
Yeah, correct. I heard it yesterday morning.
And see, I say once again, and here I go again. I say kudos to Marc Cox because of the fact that, and he brought up something interesting this morning. He said, now here we go again. He said, I'm asking for the public's help on this. This is Marc Cox in 97.1. Once again, do you think Marc Cox would ever, I told you once upon a time, Mark, when I used to send him information, he used to refer to me. Now he just a friend. He doesn't even call me, he doesn't refer to me anymore as Brad.
Right, we got to go ahead.
Okay. Supposedly, this is what he said. There's been 3 or 4 reports to him that a illegal Honduran immigrant was arrested someplace in Warren County. He thinks it actually happened within the city of Warrenton, firing a gun out the window of his car, driving drunk, and is in one of the jails out there. Matter of fact, I don't even know if some munis have their own jails. I think Warren County has the jail for all the different munis out there because they're all very small. That this guy's in jail, but nobody has any story on it. And he talks about how the mainstream media here in St. Louis won't cover this, partly because of the fact it didn't happen in downtown St. Louis, but it happened in Warren County, and to the people that work at the Post-Dispatch or as STLPR, that might as well be Chicago to them.
So is his line that this guy might be an illegal alien?
Well, he said that. He said that's what the reports are. He's an illegal immigrant driving down I-70, weaving in and out of traffic. Somebody apparently, it turned into a road rage. This is what he was saying. Somehow a road rage incident occurred from this. The guy was drunk, and this guy pulled out a gun and took some shots at somebody else in I-70. But and it's funny because he's talked about this. So I go on my website or my computer this morning, and I search it. He's right. There's nothing there. I mean, there's nothing at all. And it's like, okay, did this happen or didn't it? And once again, where's the press? They're not there because the thing that I talk about all the time, and I don't want to get into the point where I sound like I'm constantly badgering St. Louis Public Radio.
No, not at all, Brad. Why would anyone think that?
I'm changing the rule from the 95-5 rule, which meaning that 95% of the news comes from 5% of the staff at KWMU, which is Jason Rosenbaum. I'm changing it to 98-2. That 98% of the news on St. Louis Public Radio comes from Jason Rosenbaum. The rest of the staff, the other 32 people, put 2%. His stuff, his video he had yesterday of the controversy in the Senate chambers. Did you see the video on that where the protesters were unveiling the banners from the gallery? Did you see that?
Yeah, I happened to link to several stories about that today.
Okay, once again, he's doing his job. He's a great reporter.
Yeah, he absolutely is, right? I think that's well covered ground there.
And
But Brad, how many people work at St. Louis Public Radio? You haven't talked about that this week.
There's over, according to the website, there's over 30 people in the news department. 30 people, And John, here's the thing. If each person, let's say if I was a news director at St. Louis Public Radio and I go, okay, look, I'm not trying to put up a quota system, but there's 30 of you here. 30, let's say 30. There's like 32 or something like that. Okay, we got this website. Every single day, I want each one of you to put up a story on stlpr.org, okay? Every day they'd have 30 stories on there, at least 30 stories. With Jason, they probably have 45 stories because he puts up 15 stories.
You're probably right. Now, have you checked stlpr.us? They're too cheap to spend $69 a year, so they bought US instead. They could have gone out and sold one additional incremental unit of advertising to cover that cost. But no, they just want to buy a new domain instead.
Well,
try stlpr.us.
I will tell you something right now, that the state should learn something from private sector because of the fact that instead of naming it the Kit Bond Bridge across the Missouri River in Herman, or the Sam Graves Bridge, which they want to name a bridge there, sell the naming rights.
That's a good. I do like that idea, Brad.
Sell the naming rights. It would be like, the Quiver River Electric Bridge or whatever. And, the same way private people do. Well, I shouldn't say private because the city of St. Louis made money off the Edward Jones Dome and the TWA Dome, the TWA
right,
Dome,
but you're saying
like
sell the naming rights.
Yes.
I like that. You could have the Miss Augusta Bridge.
Right. And you could have the David and Jerry Hoffman Memorial Roadway, which would be Highway 94. They take down all the signs.
I think memorial means they have to be dead, though, right?
No, they're just memorializing them. You can memorialize. Okay, that kind of thing. Okay. We're moving through things here. Okay. I sent you something, and, I don't want to be the guy that's like stirring the pot, but on this, I think I'm stirring the pot. I got a thing the other day from, it was actually, someone sent it to me, and I also saw it.
It's a social media post. Franklin County, let's cut to the chase. Franklin County Republican Central Committee is having an awesome event. I'm guessing you have some kind of a problem with it because you sent me a picture of it, as usual, from Brad with no context or explanation. And so what's your beef with this? What appears to be an awesome legislative review. And for folks who don't know, you could go check out, I'm sorry, it's not Franklin County. It's the Missouri River GOP event.
It's a bunch of them. It's Franklin County and St. Charles County.
Yeah, I misspoke about that. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a bunch of them, okay? And it's an event next month at the Des Peres Taj Mahal there in Des Peres, right there, fancy schmancy.
Which is good, and it's focused on the Missouri Legislative Review, so everything that happened this legislative session.
Okay, go down to the very bottom, right above where it says who is sponsored by. See what that says right there, John? Read what it says. 26
preview and county executive candidates, Bill Eigel and Dennis Hancock.
Okay, first off, I had no idea Dennis Hancock was not in the race, so I screenshotted that, and I texted it to, yes, he's my friend, Mike Elam. And I said, Mike, how come you're not on there? And Mike was totally caught off guard. He had no knowledge of this. Plus, if you notice, also it has the 97.1 logo on it and says it's sponsored by 97.1 and the MC is Marc Cox.
Well, so, it doesn't. You're right. It does say it's presented by, and Marc Cox is the MC. That's awesome. And Dennis Hancock is running for St. Louis County Executive.
But it says it's St. Charles County Executive.
No, it says 2026 preview and county executive candidates. It doesn't say Dennis Hancock is running for St. Charles County.
So why would they just have Bill Eigel? So when I sent this to Mike Elam, he sends it to his boss at 97.1. And the interesting part of this is not a 97.1 event.
Well, I believe that. So you're saying that the township used the 97.1 logo because they have Marc Cox, right? And they said, hey, I mean, they didn't say that it's being they said it's presented by, I guess. So I guess you can make that argument.
Look at the very bottom. If you look at the credits, it says and 97.1. So in other words, they're giving them a presentation, sponsorship role, whatever. Okay. So I said, and once again, I'm a Mike Elam guy, but not only am I Mike Elam guy, I put on my Twitter feed, I said, what about Mike Elam and Justin Law? Because of the fact that if you're going to give Bill Eigel a spot on there to talk about the county executive races, why wouldn't you give the other two dudes as well too, right? Make it fair.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, if you're going to have Bill Eigel, let Justin Law and Mike Elam also be there. And what's interesting was Mike, like I said, Mike knew nothing about it. And when he talked to his boss at 97.1, they were sort of like, well, this is, they were like, well, obviously they've contacted Marc Cox to be the MC, but we're not sponsoring it like it says they are. So is the fix being put in for Bill Eigel?
No, it would seem to me that Wild Horse Township, which by the way, there are, I believe, still 28 townships in St. Louis County, that the committee people decided they wanted to have a cool event, and they probably have a good relationship with Bill Eigel. And they said, hey, Bill, come talk to, we're going to have a few folks here. Do you want to come and spend 5 minutes talking about your campaign?
Why didn't they do that with Mike Elam and Justin Law?
Okay, so you know that they didn't reach out to Mike Elam. Maybe they reached out to Jason Law. Do you think that a St. Louis County Republican committee man who has a relationship with Bill Eigel and says, hey, come say hi to everybody for a few minutes, talk about your race, you think he has an obligation to include everybody who has said that they're going to run for St. Charles County Executive?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, hey, that's your opinion.
That's where I come from on that. Because it's just like, we didn't get to talk about this morning. There's more interesting stuff going on with the David Hogg thing. And I found an interesting piece. I'm going to send this to you. Newsweek. I know people go, Newsweek, they're still in business. They write some interesting stuff. Interesting article out of Newsweek about what's going on with the David Hogg thing, which I find fascinating. More than I read into, I thought to myself, okay, maybe I've become a sort of a David Hogg fan because of the fact that he's essentially saying, look, the Democratic Party is a mess, and part of the problem is this goofy social crap that, we're going to, him, her, pronouns and transgender, stuff like that. Look, we need young people in there to essentially, spout our views and say, look, this is the new Democratic Party. This is not your grandpa's Democratic Party vis-a-vis Bill, or Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, Brad. I never pictured you as a David Hogg guy. By the way, we should point out too, Brad, that the gentleman I believe who's hosting this, a guy named NilesStephens, he is a township committee man. And if you'll remember back in November, Brad, they had a legislative preview for the session and I couldn't make it. This is the gentleman that I sent you the details for the event. And this gentleman, Niles, specifically asked if I couldn't make it, if you could be there. And so he has been gracious enough in the past to invite us to come to one of his events. So thank you for that, Niles. And I'm guessing, Brad, you didn't make it to that event that night. Remember, I couldn't be there. But so it seems as though Mr. Stephens is getting together a number of folks who have input on the legislative session. I see Scott Fawn is going to be there as well. And it looks like, I'm guessing Niles has a good relationship with Bill Eigel and invited Bill to come.
John, I couldn't make it that night because it was bingo night at my old folks' home. And
I think it was pickleball night. And you've seen the way that those 89-year-old women put on their pickleball dresses, and you just couldn't say no.
And not only that, I had to be fitted for my new prosthetic arm. So that's why I couldn't. That's why I couldn't make it that night. Okay, John.
I got a Francis Howell NEA meeting to go to, Brad. I got to run.
Okay, John. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow.